Feeling overwhelmed by shipping complexities and industry jargon? ProShip ParcelCast Unwined is here to help. Join us as we unwind with industry experts, break down complex topics, and make shipping enjoyable with a cocktail in hand. Learn about the latest trends in technology, navigate carrier changes, and gain valuable insights from the pros. ProShip ParcelCast Unwind. It's your one-stop shop for simplifying logistics, one sip at a time. Brought to you by ProShip, the last shipping software you'll ever need. Now, ready to help you ship smarter, not harder, here's your host, Jerri Dixon.
Welcome, everyone, to today's ProShip ParcelCast Unwind, Parcel Powerhouse, debunking myths and optimizing your small parcel shipping. To help us navigate the common misconceptions and shed light on best practices, we have two fantastic guests joining us today. Welcome back, Justin Cramer, and a warm welcome to Jeremy Hudson from Open Sky Group. Justin and Jeremy, will you please introduce yourselves?
Jeremy, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Hudson, Vice President of Client Services at Open Sky Group. I've been at Open Sky for 9 years now. My anniversary was just a couple weeks ago, so really excited to celebrate that. Open Sky has been helping companies build successful supply chains through WMS and TMS systems for the last 18 years. So really excited to be a representative for Open Sky on this call and discuss some parcel myths with Justin and Jerry today.
Excellent. And my name is Justin Cramer. I'm sure many of you have heard of me, but for those who haven't, I'm one of the co-founders of ProShip. I've been in the small parcel world for 24 years, and in that time, I've been fortunate enough to be able to do just about everything from the software side, from design, development, sales, and implementation, allowing me the opportunity to work on systems that ship 1 million packages a day, as well as systems that ship across 4 continents. Jerry?
Thanks for joining us, and congratulations, Jeremy. That's quite a milestone. Before we get started and we dive into the world of logistics, let's whip up a refreshing beverage to keep those creative problem-solving juices flowing. We'll be mixing up an efficiently fashioned. It's a twist on the classic old-fashioned, but it celebrates streamlining your approach. So this has just the right amount of each ingredient to create a balanced and satisfying experience. Similarly, a successful small parcel shipping strategy involves finding the perfect balance between cost, efficiency, and service. And that's where a little expert guidance and especially experience can come in handy. So cheers, gentlemen. If you have a cocktail or a mocktail or water even. That's bourbon. That is bourbon. No, it's good. So this drink has Kentucky Straight Bourbon by Bullet, organic simple syrup, dried orange slices, and a little dash of aromatic bitters. So the efficiently fashioned, now we've got our cocktail, and we can explore our small parcel shipping strategies with Justin and Jeremy. So let's jump right in. Justin, in the world of parcel management, what are some of the biggest myths that you encounter when talking to potential clients?
Well, there's a couple that I want to really delve into. One is rate shopping within a service class only. Okay. One is that you can be single carrier and still get the best deal, right? This is a myth that comes from 10 plus years ago. And then my favorite one, an enterprise software stack integration is simple. Okay. So as we look at all these, several of these for much of our audience are going to be very just laughable, right? Yeah. The first one, though, I find isn't as intuitive as I would like it to be. And when I say rate shopping within a service class, I mean we want to get something in somewhere 2 days, maybe next day. Well, in that case, all we do is put in the services to rate our next day services. Yes, this is going to find out if brown is cheaper than purple, is cheaper than orange, is cheaper than, so on and so forth. But really, especially when we're looking at short-term services, as in next day and 2-day, there is no harm in adding ground services in there, especially if you're looking at a zone 2 shipment. So I always want to tell people, make sure first, if you're going to put Saver versus the Express one, overnight Express, well, you wasted your time putting overnight Express. It's always going to be more expensive than the Saver, right? Save a couple CPUs there, but spend those CPU cycles on throwing in your grounds, your regional carriers, things of that nature that might be a zone 2 delivery, okay? The other one that I think is almost completely busted, but we see a pushback from the carriers right now is, hey, just give all your volume to me and I'll get you the best deal, okay? Now look, I will tell you, if you're less than 100 packages a day, that might actually be right. There might not be a huge case for rate shopping. If you are shipping even a dozen packages a day, you can get a pretty quick negotiation with just about any carrier that you want to reduce your prices. But once you start to get to that 200, 300, 400 packages a day, heaven forbid you're at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 packages a day. At that point in time, just for business continuity's sake alone, you need to have an additional carrier. But the reality is as soon as the carriers understand you are using a true rate shopping solution, you will be able to get better deals, though you will also notice that the carriers will negotiate heavily on lanes that they want versus lanes that they don't. Okay, and then finally, enterprise software stacks. These have changed a lot in my nearly quarter decade of experience that I've got in this industry. Back from the days where we were swapping files and using mailbox tables to the most modern OAuth enabled RESTful JSON, and soon webhooks are coming out, right? The integration technology itself continues to evolve, but also what we define as each part of the enterprise software stack continues to evolve as well. Things that we saw as part of other pieces of the stack, like inventory control, things of that nature, some of those have evolved out into their own products, like OMSs, right? In other cases, we have a much more simple stack, but however we look at it, we need to understand that the key is ensuring that we have real-time data flow, usually on-demand data flow, so that we can make changes all the way until a package crosses a scale and have those take effect without having to tell our customer no, because we all know that's not the customer experience we want to provide.
Good points. Jeremy, do you think that customers believe that their WMS covers everything, or?
Yeah, no, that's a good place to start for myths, right? Your WMS can do it all. And listen, I'm a WMS guy at heart. That's where I've been pretty much my entire professional career, is in the WMS space. And yeah, I've heard it plenty of times, right? You go on a sales tour, or you're doing a demo and the client raises their hand and says, hey, we ship FedEx and UPS. Can you guys integrate to those? Yes, let's move on, right? That's quickly the answer, and let's not delve into that any longer, right? And so I think a common myth is that point-to-point integrations with carriers can make you successful. To Justin's point, sure, if you're shipping less than 100 parcels a day, then maybe that works for you, right? But for the folks that look to scale beyond that, or that look to scale their e-com business with, truthfully, who's not looking to do that these days, right? You need a more competent solution, right? I think a lot of people confuse the idea of even rate solicitation with rate shopping. Those are two massively different things, right? And even if your integration allows you to solicit a rate, yeah, comparing those and making decisions, that really shouldn't be on your WMS to be responsible for that, right? Your WMS should really be an execution system. That's why it's so important to leverage solutions to really do effective rate shopping, right? And so, yes, while surely you can build a bunch of point-to-point individual integrations within a WMS, it is by no means sustainable, right? It's not going to scale with your business. It's not going to give you the best rates going forward. It's not going to be effective, right? If you need to be more agile, if you need to be more nimble, which who doesn't these days, right? you need an integration that's really more prone to being able to shop multiple carriers, multiple service levels, right, and deliver a solution. And so I think that's the important call out here, is that, point to points aren't necessarily the answer. I think the other thing I would call out here is that, rate shopping is only necessary if I'm shipping quickly, if I need to ship 2 days, if I need to ship 1 day, or something like. I've seen rate shopping results where we may choose a carrier that slows things down because your promise date wasn't for a week, so why would I ship on a more efficient path, right? And so rate shopping works in both directions, right? And folks shouldn't simply think of this as, oh, well, I would only need to use that if I need to ship faster, right? There's plenty of opportunities to save, right, and optimize by meeting your promise date to your customer, right? So I think that's an important call out as well in the myths territory.
So both ProShip and OpenSky have been around for quite some time. ProShip for over 20 years, OpenSky for almost 20 years, around 18, 19. With the rapid changes in the logistics industry, especially post-pandemic, how does that experience play a role in your approach to client solutions? Because it is important, experience is important, but how? Tell us how.
Yeah, and Justin, I'll take this one first, right, and then you can add on. But I think that, experience comes in a lot of different ways, right? I think there's plenty of people that have strictly software experience, right? At OpenSky, we take a lot of pride in the fact that our folks just aren't software experienced; they're solutions experienced. They've done the work experienced, right? We've walked the walk, we've talked the talk, we've been in the warehouses, we've led operations, we've designed solutions plenty of times, and I think that. You mentioned COVID, obviously, but we've all learned we have to be more versatile, right? I'll be honest with you. The rings under my eyes here are not camera quality. That's not at fault there. I've spent the last 7 days on site with a client, actually a client of both ProShip and OpenSky. We did a joint implementation for them a little while ago, and they were hit with a tornado 2.5 weeks ago. And it was 700,000 square foot facility, and the facility was completely wiped out. And so that facility was doing the bulk of their parcel shipping. And we had to pivot to shipping out of 2 of their other facilities very quickly. And those facilities saw their parcel volume increase 10x, right? And the good news is, 3 years ago when we were building that parcel solution for them, we said, hey, I know your Las Vegas facility and I know your Pennsylvania facility, you don't plan on doing that much volume, but what if you suddenly need to, right? And we said, let's make sure we put ProShip in all 3 of these facilities to allow you to scale. And obviously, right now, that seems like a really good decision, right? But it's about having some of that forethought to not strictly look directly in front, right? But to look at the future, to look at, these potential scenarios where you may need to scale or pivot or lean your volume into another facility, right? And so, experience has taught us that it's not strictly about what you need today. You really do have to have forethought about what you may need tomorrow, even in some of these really unforeseen circumstances. What is your contingency plan, and what can you do to really make your business successful, even in the most unfortunate circumstances?
Yeah, I want to continue on with what we were talking about, especially with that customer, because as a group, everybody involved, all of us vendors, the customer themselves, decided that we would plan for contingencies. It hasn't made this a non-issue. Clearly, there's been a warehouse that's been damaged. There's been a lot of things that need to change. But because we were able to very quickly solve the majority of the problems because we pre-planned for them, other of the problems that kind of just floated by, like, well, we can't do all of our returns back to that warehouse anymore. Those seemed like significantly smaller problems that we're able to clearly handle because it wasn't jammed into the panic of trying to reorganize a system that wasn't intended to do what it now needed to do with that flexibility. And let's face it, we see so much volatility. I mean, it's been the key word for like the last 4 years now. I'm trying to come up with a different word to use. But as we look at it, let's face it, this is the first time in my memory that UPS has done layoffs, right? We've got FedEx going from 3 opcos trying to come down to 1 opco. That's going to be fun. The United States Post Office has made more changes in the past 2 years than probably 10 to 15 years prior to it combined. Okay. You've got new coast-to-coast carriers that have now come up, especially with OnTrack now filling in even more of the Midwest with Minneapolis, Wisconsin. I'm sorry, not Minneapolis. And Michigan. Anyways, they've filled in most of the Midwest there. I'm never going to get Minneapolis' state right for some reason. But then we've started to see it. We've started to see carriers exit the market, right? Margo, X-Delivery. I was just looking today at FreightWaves that a Illinois company, LTL company, just closed up their doors and they're selling their trucks today. So as we look at all of that, there is so much volatility, and that can either be an issue or it could be an event. Okay. And if it's an event, we go, oh, you know what? This is no different than if we had a product go viral. We just need to flick the appropriate levers and put the plan in place or execute the plan that we've set the system up for that volatility, for reactivity, for the ability to ensure that these unplanned things that happen, and let's face it, if you're planning for a tornado, that's I need to know what your lottery numbers are. These unplanned things happen. The recovery from them needs to be as simple and as calming as possible.
Yeah, and Justin, I mean, you mentioned, right, the buzz term has been volatility, and the answer to that has been the buzzword of resiliency, right? And I think that, that terminology is used a lot in supply chain, right? And I think some people interpret it as like invincibility, right? You're prepared for everything, won't affect you. No, resiliency means you can take a punch. Doesn't mean the punch won't hurt, right? But it means you can take a punch and then keep going, right? And I think that's the key. And to pull this back to experience, Jerry, which is where we started, it's about understanding what the reaction is to those punches, right? You cannot expect that you just internally know everything that might be thrown at you, right? I'm sure every company out there has wonderful minds and wonderful people, but our two companies have seen a lot, right? We understand some of the most prevalent challenges, and quite honestly, I was talking to folks while I was on site supporting some of this tornado disaster recovery, and everybody agreed this probably isn't the most challenging thing that's ever happened to them. From a business standpoint, right? It's just the scale of it. But we've all gotten really good at responding to challenges and conquering challenges, right? This was just a string of challenges, at a scale that they hadn't dealt with before, but they had the ability to deal with it, right? And, partners like us, we obviously, are standing by to support and make sure they can handle that punch, right? And truly be that resilient term that we hear so much in the industry.
Jeremy, we should probably point out that this customer was very lucky. Nobody was injured. We're just talking property damage and some goods that can no longer be shipped.
Absolutely. And quite honestly, again, I took a tour of the site. Absolutely incredible that no one was injured in this. It was truly a miracle that everybody was unscathed. Tons of property damage, right? But obviously that's something we can easily react to. And so credit to that site. And I'm being careful not to mention names here, but man, I wish I could, because just absolutely incredible that they were able to keep everybody safe in that event. And, their product is extremely important. And it's great to see that they've been able to bounce back. We've got 3 warehouses live in 2 weeks, and we've moved 5,000 pallets in the span of 5 days. So exhausted for sure, right? But unscathed, and yeah, resilient, right?
That's a horrible and wonderful example of how proactivity in this area, especially with your software stack, with the right MCSS, the right WMS, the right OMS can help situations like that recover quickly and get back on your feet as far as shipping. Now, within the realm of solutions, Justin, you mentioned moving beyond best practices. Can you elaborate on that and how ProShip approaches building solutions for specific client needs?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I want to go back to what Jeremy was alluding to is the experience of the teams, okay? And whether it's many times our customers have great experience, but our partners like OpenSky have great experience as well. The reason this is important is because we understand why certain best practices are there. And since we're not here just to say yes, I mean, sure, if somebody asks about a very particular thing, the sales team may want to just go right past it. Do we ship UPS? Yes. Okay. But let's face it, the reality, if somebody says, well, we want to do something differently that deviates from best practice, as a team, we should have the ability to understand why that is helpful, why that is a unique selling advantage to this customer or to you as a customer, and be able to advise for or against it. I always like to say that if everybody only followed best practice, there would only be one company, because it would take over everything and be able to ship everything. But the reality is the best practices we have, they're dated. You know, as technology changes, there are reasons to deviate from them, but deviation for deviation's sake is a bad idea, which is why you need great partners to help you understand which one of those are going to achieve the goals you're looking for, and which one of them is high tops that you pump up, right? I mean, they look cool, but do they really help you? In the end, there's a reason the Reebok pumps are no longer sold. So.
Okay, interesting point about deviation. Jeremy, can you share an example of how maybe OpenSky Group helped the client achieve such like optimization through customization reduction?
Yeah. So I think that going back to the deviation point, another myth. We started with that, right? So let's go back to that, right? Another myth. The client's always right. That's not necessarily the case, right? And I think you do have to be willing to challenge a client. Actually, I recall a project that ProShip and I were working on together, and the client wanted to store all of their master data for hazmat within the Parcel tool, right? That's where they currently stored it. They had a table in their Parcel tool in their old system, and they said, hey, we put all of our Parcel data in this table. We'll just reference that. It's fine, right? We'll reference that for our hazmat data, and that'll be good, right? And we both raised our hands and said, hey, that is not a good idea, right? Like, you don't want folks managing this here. You have a master data system for that purpose. You need to add those fields to your master data system. You need to maintain it there. That's the big boy thing to do. Yes, I understand those big boy systems, those big master data systems don't always adapt well to change, but trust me, this is the best solution long term, right? And there's been plenty of examples where folks have tried to make their WMS do things it shouldn't. And I like to use the car analogy here. If you go look at your Ford or your Tesla or whatever other car, right, go look at the tires on that car. They are not Ford tires. They are not Tesla tires, right? Car companies know when to concede. They know when to recognize that they're not the experts at everything, right? While you can make great components for motors or cars or whatever, right? There's already experts in the tire realm, right? And it's very similar in the WMS space, especially with the introduction of SaaS platforms, right? So everybody is by now familiar with SaaS, and it's about standardization. It's about, centralizing the way to support a software and having multiple customers use that software in similar ways. And so when a customer does bring up some mass adaptation they would like to live inside the WMS, right? That's where, again, our experience helps us distinguish, no, right? You're trying to create your own tires here. That's not the right solution. There's already tire experts out there. Go use their softwares for that, right? Go use a cubing software. Go use, some of these more another great example. Go into any of your warehouses, go grab an RF gun and look at the brand on that RF gun. It's not made by your WMS vendor, right? It's made by Motorola, Zebra, well, actually Zebra, right? It's made by Honeywell. It's made by some of those different experts, right? Because WMS companies, they don't make that stuff, right? There's very similar shipping softwares, right? WMSs waved the white flag. They said, listen, we can't do this as well as ProShip can. Use a ProShip if you're going to ship large amounts of parcel. And so it's about understanding what those limitations are and saying, listen, we're not going to customize your solution to support something that an ancillary software can do better, because I'm not going to get you in a situation where you're not upgrading your WMS, where you're not able to support your WMS, right? Where you're paying too much to support your WMS because you made it do something it's not intended to do, right? And so, it's important that we always apply that filter of, can it be upgraded? Can it be supported? Are we going down, the wrong path here and developing a niche solution for a single requirement when we should be looking to a more stable, more responsible option?
And Jimmy, I'd love to react to that almost from the opposite side. Whereas when we are talking, you and I are talking about, we need this separation. The warehouse system is inventory, pick, pack, put away, all these things. The multi-carrier shipping system is for complex shipment execution. Well, you know what? There are times when you don't need all that. Okay. And I think the difficult thing for an executive team, for any business to understand, is what level of complexity do they need? And I think that is, again, where great partners come into play, even if they're not true partners, as in you're not paying them, but just that opportunity to reach out, talk to somebody with knowledge and find out, do I need the most expensive WMS out there, right? Jeremy, you and I both know two really expensive WMS components that they can do just about anything. But if I'm starting off with my 5 package a day business, you'd never recommend that to me, would you?
No, sir.
And it's all about the inverse of this rule that we're talking about, of having systems do separate out what they do, is knowing when to start breaking that out. If you first start off with a new business, you may start off with Shopify and the built-in shipping that's there.
Yeah.
Not really much along the lines of inventory control other than just basic counts, right? But as you grow, you're just going to start to feel that pain and realize the only way to make things better is to start separating things out into software that manages that particular concern. Okay. And so I think by looking at it from not, I'm already a big business, I want to do things my way, but if you were to look at it as you just hung out your shingle last month, right? How do I grow my systems? When do I start isolating things? That also, if you think of it from that opposite direction, you may be able to realize that you've got too many dependencies on a single part of your enterprise software stack where you really shouldn't have them there.
Sounds like both of you have, and your teams have had to get creative when it comes to customer implementations.
Yeah, I would say every single one of them require a bit of creativity and thinking outside the box, right? And it's, I've used the term before, responsible maverick, right? Like, you have to be a maverick, you have to think creatively, but at the same time, right, think out of the box while inside the box. Because like I mentioned, right, you've got these SaaS softwares with a ton of capability built in, and you may need to repurpose some of that capability in a way that you haven't seen before, right? You may need to use these softwares or these functionalities within softwares in different ways to continue to leverage base product. And even then, I think sometimes it's about asking yourself, these softwares are in use by thousands of companies, Fortune 500 companies. Why are you different, right? Like, that's not a bad thing to be somewhat self-reflective at times and think, do I need to creatively adapt my operation versus creatively adapt my software, right? It's not always the software that needs to necessarily change, right? In some circumstances, it's, hey, there's a reason this isn't the right fit, right? And it may not always be may not always be the software in the wrong, right? And I know that's an easy thing to say for a software guy, but trust me, I've been on the ops side as well.
Jeremy, you can only go so far to correct bad operations with good software. I hear exactly what you're saying there, because yeah, there are times, and look, if let's say you do nothing but ship hazmat, you can't change that. That is your unique selling advantage. So yes, you may need to tailor things for that. Let's say you ship a lot of less than 1 pound goods. You're not going to want to implement the same best practices that hazmat shipper is doing.
Yeah.
So, but that's not to say that because you don't want to move a cage to a place where it's easier to execute things, and you want instead our software to rearrange the pick process for a multi-line pick, so it has to go past that cage, or we have to handle the actual shipping processing differently if anything from that cage is in there. These are things where you sometimes have to ask yourself, should I fix my operations, or should I force the software to deviate from best practices?
Yeah.
So what y'all are telling us is the right technology can make a significant impact.
The right technology can make a great impact, but like they say, you can't outrun a bad diet. You can't out software a bad operation.
I'm going to write that down. All right. Well, those are awesome examples, advice to live by about technology and implementation and doing it the right way, and how experience is significantly important. Right now, we are going to play a little game called This or That. Our outstanding marketing team comes up with these questions, and we do not look at them until right now. So they will be topic related in just a minute. So Jeremy, time travel tour of historical trade routes, or front row seat to the first moon landing?
Yeah, I'm gonna go time travel here. I feel like that's the right answer. Moon landing, that's one event. I mean, I'll take the time travel.
Justin?
Oh, I'm thinking about this because on one hand, let's face it, the moon landing is such a great scientific, such a great bright spot in the evolution of all of STEM. On the other hand, I would really like to see the Greek city of Piraeus at its peak, because as far as my thought process, that's where modern shipping, modern manifesting really started, complete with manifests that were sealed into jars to be broken on the other side so they could do inventory. So I'm going to have to go with the time travel too, just because I want to see those first tablets.
Same. Okay. Second, always have a perfectly seasoned, ready to grill Wagyu steak in your fridge, versus always have a freshly caught salmon fillet delivered straight from the dock. Justin?
Steak. But that is, salmon is great. Look, don't get me wrong. I love pretty much all meats, seafoods, everything. But there's nothing like a great steak, because you can choose to slow it down and get a more buttery taste from it. You can choose to char it and get that different flavor. You can season it in different ways to get so much.
I got to make reservations for dinner.
I always just feel that it's not, fish is just not as versatile, though honestly I love salmon, and fresh caught salmon is awesome.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, it's a good thing I'm not a vegetarian. Yeah, no, as a Texan, right, I only have one answer I can choose here. I'd have to move, right? Like, I'd have to relocate if I said anything other than steak. Now, the thing I like about this question is, like, I personally, I'm very nervous cooking Wagyu. Like I mean, that's an expensive cut, right? If I'm gonna grill, so the fact that I always have it available is pretty exciting, right? Because I'm gonna master that, right? So
Mhm.
I like that it's always available. I get that trial and error, right? Like I can just keep on figuring this thing out. So yeah, sign me up for that.
That's
Just,
a
just
great.
think of it. Sous vide, high temperature seared, low and slow. Oh, so many ways you could cook
Yeah.
that.
Jeremy, when we go out to dinner, literally Justin orders a plate of steak.
There you go.
There's no, I'll say, let's get the potatoes. And, and his wife will say, let's get this or a vegetable. And he's like, I'll have the steak, please. Just the steak. Just want the steak.
I just
Yeah.
want to leave more for everybody else.
Yeah, thank you. You're so sweet. Okay. Number 3, Silicon Valley Tech Tour with exclusive access to company headquarters and innovation labs. Silicon Valley Tech Tour with exclusive access to company headquarters and innovation labs. Or Tokyo deep dive into cutting edge tech and robotics. I'm going with number 2 because supply chain management. I'd love to have that deep dive. What do you think, Jeremy and Justin?
I'm gonna go Silicon Valley here. Yeah, I personally would like to see the inner workings of some of those companies out there, right? And so yeah, I'm gonna go less supply chain centric here at risk of damaging my career. But yeah, I think I'd go overall Silicon Valley.
You know what? I'm going to deviate from best practice here and say I'm going to pick whichever one is going to offer me the most time to talk with engineers and executives.
Oh
Because
gosh.
it's not so much the actual tech itself as the thought process that led to the tech that I would be interested in.
Yeah, if you go the Tokyo deep dive and cutting edge tech and robotics, AI robots, how fun. Okay. Now this is topic related. Pick a partner, a logistics solutions provider that specializes in only your industry versus choose a provider with a broader expertise across multiple industries.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to jump in here because I have a good answer on this one. And I'm going to go back to the inverse thing that Jeremy and I were talking about before. And I think it depends upon where you are, right? If
Yeah.
you are 100,000 packages a day, you want absolute experts in every single one of them. If you are 300-400 packages a day or less, somebody who's got broad expertise in multiple markets is going to serve you best. So depending upon where you are on that scale, that's where I would pull things in. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a note from Justin here. He's cheated on 2 of these answers, I think, right? And so I'm gonna say yes is the answer to this question, right? I think you should look for someone that has experience broadly, but also is familiar with your industry, right? And so as an example, Open Sky, for whatever reason, right, we got really good at wire companies. I can't explain it to you. We kind of tripped into it a few years back, but I personally have been associated with 3 different warehouses that distribute wire, right? And quite honestly, it is a super niche industry. There are very unique things. A pulling head, when I say that term, is not what you think it is. And so like there's just some really interesting jargon and obscurities and customer specific uniquities there that are very relevant, and it really helps to not have to educate someone on that. But at the same time, I can tell you when we implemented those sites, we used a lot of things that we use for non-wire clients that work really well for them, right? So like they wanted to really do like a high stakes audit on outbound, for example. They really wanted to like, hey, we want to check every box and make sure everything. And we used ecom functionality from pack stations, right? In an ecom pack station, you go through every item, you check a box, you say, yep, it's all there. You prompt additional questions and confirmations. We use that on outbound auditing for a wire company. because it accomplished effectively the same purpose, right? And so like it was cool to have that e-com experience, adapt it to wire, and then it's really cool to sit down with another wire company and know exactly what jargon they're referencing. So I'd say yes, you want someone that has broad experience, but you also want to look for those that are familiar with your niche. So thank you, Justin, for allowing us to stretch the rules a little bit here.
Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Yeah.
Jeremy. Okay, pick a partner. Prioritize a logistics solutions provider with strong data analytics capabilities versus a provider with deep-rooted industry connections.
Oh boy.
Cool. Yes.
These, by
Yeah,
the way,
I was going to say
truly are
that may be. I'm
new
going to
to
bring
us.
it
We were
back to
reading them with her.
I'm going to go back to the rules though. Never underestimate the value of data analytics in this era, right? Like it's just so pertinent and important now, and it's not. I tell everybody in this era, I don't know should never be the answer. There's data for everything. You should always have the answer. You should always be able to figure that out, right? And yeah, I mean, data analytics is just so important, right? And if you're not leveraging that, if you're not thinking through, right? Okay, well, let's run the metrics. How impactful is this, et cetera, right? Data analytics is everything, right? And so I'm going to go data analytics experience here, not to diminish the other, but I'm trying to stick to the rules again. I'm trying to get back on the right path here.
Well, I'll be contrarian just to talk to the other side of it. It's like when I was back in high school and we were given the side of your debates that you had to pitch. I'll take the other side here on this one, and I'll just come off by starting with the really easy one, which says if I have deep-rooted industry connections, I know somebody who can do analytics, right?
That's true.
Do you know somebody who knows about wire head pull thingies, right?
There you go.
I do. So that's what I would go with. I would say the advantage to going with somebody with deep industry knowledge is they're going to know somebody who can do that data analytics. But more importantly, as Jeremy alluded to before, they're also going to know people who know exactly how your business and your industry works. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer here. I do think it is something that you need to understand on the dichotomy, how much you need of which side, because you can't get somebody that's got both. Okay, well, maybe you can, but they're going to be really, really, really expensive.
Great answers, guys. Okay, before we wrap up, let's hear some final thoughts from the two of you. What do you want to leave our listeners with today?
Go, Jeremy.
Yeah, for me, it's first of all, right? Know that there are some myths out there that you need to dispel, right? So, whether you're looking to optimize, whether you're looking to implement something new, not everything you've heard is, it's just such a changing industry, right? And there's so many solutions out there now. And just know you're going to have to do some dispelling of some myths, right? Whether you're pursuing improvement or pursuing something new, right? And, find a partner that can help with that. Find a partner that's going to, assist you in understanding, true and false throughout your pursuits, right? And so I would say, that's important. I would also say definitely evaluate those that have firm partnerships. And I specifically want to tout Open Sky Group's relationship with ProShip here, right? We have done multiple implementations together, right? And when I say multiple, I mean many, many implementations together across different industries. And it's really fun to work with the ProShip team because there aren't surprises, right? We don't get on a call with that team to begin mapping or testing, et cetera. And we all know what to expect when we get into that call. We all know exactly what the mapping documents look like. We all know exactly how reference fields are utilized. We all know, I probably could go hunt down a few of our consultants that know like ProShip field length limitations off the top of their head, right? So just waiting for that one to come up at trivia night, right? But yeah, we know each other on a first name basis. We know each other in terms of how we like to process information, right? Our different integration protocols, all of those things, those are incredibly valuable. And yeah, sure, it'll speed up your project, but more importantly, you can make sure you're getting a quality deliverable because we simply understand how our two systems work together, right? Look for the value in those partnerships and definitely look for those that have long-term relationships that have been working together for years.
Jeremy, you set me up perfect. I swear we didn't plan this. My note was partner, not vendor. Okay. And that's really what you hit on the head. And I just want to reiterate is, look, some things you have to just have a vendor. Okay. The company that supplies your toilet paper, they're probably just a vendor. Companies that provide parts of your enterprise software stack that execute your unique recipe of order taking, fulfillment, and execution. You don't want vendors there. Okay, there is no Sam's Club of enterprise software stack components, right? You want to partner there, and as Jeremy mentioned, preferably you want a partner that has partnered with the rest of your enterprise software stack, that has that ability to speak the same language. When we say the translation tables, we know what we're talking about. We don't even have to. It's not like, well, how do you define that? No, like he said, there are team members on his side that can tell you parts of what what our limitations may be on a particular field length. Now, our team knows why those limitations are there. So if we really need to go deep, they can tell you that because the United States Post Office requires this and UPS requires that. But the reality is that we're not doing that initial handshake. What do you do? Okay, what does that mean? We've done that a lot. And likewise with our customers, I'm going to harken back to the to our customer that's had the tornado problems. When these things, when the decision was made to start making changes, when we were called together, we didn't have to get introduced to one another, right? Even if it was new personnel, because let's face it, our companies grow and change over time. The reality is that because we're continuously working with one another at multiple customers, and because we maintain great relationships with our existing customers, what does that mean? When something challenging has occurred, we're not having to ask 20 questions to understand where we're starting from because we already know it. We're not having to find out that Jeremy's from Texas and therefore can't eat salmon because he just discommunicate and I'll have to send him to Oklahoma. but no, seriously, the fact of the matter is we already speak a common language because we know where our interface is as we cross the line from one boundary, the WMS, to another boundary, the actual multi-carrier shipping system, MCSS, right? So again, just in a small phrase, partners, not vendors.
I like that. I like both of your bits of advice. Now we've covered a lot of ground, and Jeremy, thank you so very much for joining us today. Justin, as always, thank you so much for coming. Listeners, if you are interested in learning more about how ProShip and Open Sky Group can help you optimize your logistics operations, be sure to visit our websites and reach out to us directly. And also be sure to follow us on LinkedIn to hear about our next episode. If anybody has any ideas they want to contribute for an episode, feel free to pass them along. We're happy to consider those. Until then, happy shipping, happy sipping, and cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on ProShip ParcelCast Unwined. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review. We appreciate your thoughts. Looking for even more strategies and solutions to navigate the shipping landscape? Head over to our website at ProShipInc.com. We're not just another software company. We're dedicated to becoming the perfect fit for your unique needs, helping you ship smarter, not harder. Cheers, and see you next time.